Okay, so today we're going to start with JDBC API. So it stands for Java Database Connection. And before starting with writing code, we need to understand how database work, how to create database, and I also ask you to create, or not actually create, but install MySQL Workbench. So that's how it looks like, MySQL Workbench. And by using this, we will connect with MySQL database. So MySQL work, we are using MySQL. It's a database DB. This software we are using, it's MySQL Workbench. It's a UI tool for MySQL DB or server. Think about, without UI you cannot even work like fluently. You cannot work in any environment. We are using Windows machine, so we have this keyboard, cursor. Excuse. Yeah. So we are using Windows machine. It has a great UI. We have Windows icon, then lots of softwares are working together, and we can connect or use this mouse cursors. But usually before this whole UI stuff, we there was a time when people tend to use everything from the keyboard and some other devices. So things UIs are great. Same way, if you have to work with any servers, most probably they are working with some CLI commands. Like you have to work with those black screens, writing some commands, and things will come up. Okay, so that's why we are using Workbench. Otherwise, you have to use that MySQL this line, MySQL command line client. So you have to enter some password, and there you can write some commands. Like if I have to list out all the databases, so you can see I can list certain databases. So these are the same databases which I can see here: full stack, Sakila, SB Kiran, and SB Liquid DB. You can see here SB Kiran, SB Liquid DB, Travel DB, user management, Travel DB, user management. So what I just did, I used this command line to connect with database and access the things. But again, working with this black screen is not required at all if we have some great tools. So one of the tool is Workbench. That's why we are using this MySQL Workbench. So it gives us a UI. Instead of writing all the commands right here of SQL queries, basically, you can use some UI buttons and screens. Click button and things will happen. You don't have to write a single SQL query if you are using any UI tool for any database. Same for any database present in IT industry. We have Oracle, so for Oracle we have SQL Developer. So that tool is, works really great with the Oracle database. Otherwise, again, you have to use the CLI. So I hope this why we need this system or this software. It's clear. We need MySQL Workbench so we can get a UI screen for our MySQL server or database. But what is database? It's just a collection of something where we create multiple tables. So in simplest terms, I can say when it comes to database, so it's a collection of tables. What is table? It's a would say combination of rows and um, columns. So rows will have data, columns will have headers. That's what works. Or I would say this way: column will be table headers and rows will have table data. That's how table works, and that's it. So we have to deal with tables and other columns. So how to create database? Again, you can use either this black screen to write commands to create database, or you can use the buttons over here. So forget about Java for now. We are learning how to write or use MySQL Workbench. Okay, so what you have to do, right click on any empty space right here. Make sure that you are under this schemas, administration and schemas. Schemas here means, that's a synonym for database for now. So you can see these are list of database. All these are database. You can see the icon, this some cylindrical icon. It's database, and it has tables, views, stored procedures, and functions. So as of now, we will focus on tables only. So we call schemas. This is a database term. For a general communication, we tend to call them database. But if you talk to any database guy or DBAs, they will talk in same language, schemas. Okay, so right click and create schema, and this is the screen where you have to give the database name. So I'll call it um, like I gave your uh, workspace name, and then hyphen db. So I just call that kfs and then hyphen db. That's your initial names which I started with, and then apply. Once you click apply, MySQL Workbench will generate a SQL query. So for future perspective, I copied this, and let's not here, but let's create new paint image. Okay, so that's the first command generated by uh, this MySQL Workbench. Okay, and then apply. So it says execute SQL statements. It's tick. That means it was successfully executed. And click this finish button. Close this box. Okay, and if we see, okay, there it is. So just double click on it. So this will get highlighted. So that means now MySQL Workbench will use this database for all the operations. So first thing is done. We need to create a database. It's done. Now I need to create a table inside it, because ultimately database has tables. So I will right click on tables, new, and here just a second. Yeah, okay. So once you have a database created, we need to create a new table. So tables, right click on that. Let's do this again. So save. Then right click, create table. Then we need to give a table name. So any random table, I'm going to give, let's say, student. And sometimes people tend to do that. They also suffix it underscore tb or hyphen tb. So I'm not keeping that, just the table name. After giving the table name, you need to give the columns name, the headers. So this is the column. You don't have to pick anything here. Keep these things as it is. Don't touch anything. Otherwise, it will get conflicted by the server, MySQL server. So just give the table name, and here we have column names. I'm going to give two columns only. ID, which is by default data type. Again, MySQL has its own data types, like we have seen database. Sorry, Java databases. In Java, we have multiple data types. Same in MySQL database, we have multiple data types. So column is ID for uh, like uniquely identifying the database values, and type is int. Next column, just double click just next one, and here I'll give name. And like in Java we have string, here it is varchar, and 45 is the limit of it. So if you have to type string name, here you have to type varchar name and varchar. Limit is 45, and that's it. Once you're done with the column names, of course you can add, just double click and you can have the space to write next name. I'll keep it only two. Then there's a button apply. Always apply, and you can see one more SQL query is generated. This is the SQL query to create a table. If you're not using any UI, you have to write this much command in this command line. Okay, going back to this screen and click apply. So it says successfully applied to database, and you can finish it. And always close this boxes. Don't get these things open. Close it. Okay, now if I expand this tables, I can see students are there. Right click, select rows, and I can see one query is triggered here. This is for fetching or records. Like if you want to fetch any record from table, write this way: select star from something, that's your database name, and then table name. So database dot table name. Like in Java, we tend to call object dot variable or method. Likewise, if you want to fetch any database class, sorry, with database table, so mention the database, then dot operator, and then table name. So this is how we fetch records from table. But right now we don't have any record table. It's just column names, ID and name. So that's how our table looks like. Next, if you want to insert any record inside a table, so you again we are using UI, so you can manually enter like ID, and let's say Ram. Okay, once it's done, click apply button after manually entering it, and MySQL Workbench will generate a SQL query. Okay, so this is the SQL query to insert any record in database. So how it works: insert into database dot table. What are the columns in the inside this table? ID and name. And what are the values you are going to insert into this table? So values and 1 and round. So going back, when I click apply, again I can see it says script was successfully applied to database. Okay, great. Likewise, let me insert some more records. Okay, some random names, apply, and I can see multiple queries is triggered by MySQL Workbench. So I'm just keeping them again on paint screen. Okay, great. So we have multiple insert queries and click apply, finish. So now these queries are triggered. Now if I close this screen, right click and select rows, you can see this query is again triggered and I can see all records are coming up. So we have this name, this data is coming up. Now next step is, what if I want to update these names? All right. So what I can do, because again I have a UI screen, I don't have to write queries inside this black screen. So I'll go back here, double tap, and I will get a space. So I'll say var, expand it. Okay, so what I just did, I renamed this column. So this is not saved yet. You have to again click on this apply button. So apply is critical here. Whenever you do any change manually in your database table, make sure that you are clicking apply button. Click again, and now we have one more SQL query. So what we just did, we modified one record. And if you want to modify any record in your table, you have to execute update query and then apply. And this is apply to database and finish. Let's verify again. I'll close this box to verify whether these changes are saved or not. Yes, it's there. If I don't do that, see again, if I'm going to do one change and I don't click on this apply button, okay, and close this box, so it will say you did something change. So I'll say okay, don't save it. If I go back, I can see the changes are not there. So that's why if you do any change, anything on your table, make sure that you click apply and then execute that command. Okay, so what we saw: create, select, insert, update. Last column is if you want to delete some record. So let's say I want to delete the last record, the fourth one. So what you have to do here, right click on this row, which row you want to delete. So of course these are rows like 1, 2, 3, 4. These are 4 rows and 2 columns. So if you want to delete the fourth row, right click on it and click delete rows. Oh, sorry, my bad. Wait. Revert. Okay, cursor should be here. Now right click, delete row. So the fourth row is gone, but still it's there. You have to again click on apply button. Then only things get saved in database server. So apply, and you can see we have a new SQL query, delete. So let's put it here. So MySQL Workbench triggers a delete query as well. And then apply, and it says script was successfully applied to database, and finish. Now changes are saved. If I close this box, right click, select rows, so I can see only 3 rows are there. So these are the some operations which we tend to do in database to perform certain operations. Create database, then create a table inside a database. Then if you want to fetch some record, you can write select star from this database dot this table. And if you want to insert some record, so you have to write this insert query, insert into, then column name and then database name, and that's how it goes. Then if you want to update any record, so there's a update command. So update database dot this, then set name this, where id equals to 3. So whatever name you want to update, make sure that you are writing this way. And then finally, if you want to delete something, so delete from database dot table, where id equals to 4. So it deals in IDs. So if you want to update something, make sure that you are passing ID. Likewise, if you want to delete something, make sure that you are passing ID that I want to delete this particular ID. If you don't give any ID, so what will happen? It will delete all records, and databases are really sensitive in place, and which keeps your information. So data is always critical. So to save that, make sure that you are passing primary key or the ID. So this is about how SQL query works in here. We save this, then save second image. Okay, so no query. So that means you guys knows SQL. Great. Okay, so what if I want to trigger the same queries from my Java, you know, um, language, or if I have to execute the same commands through Java, so how it's possible? So there are certain things we have to configure. So let's do this. Okay, let's create new paint image. So if you want to connect Java with MySQL, so first thing you needed is MySQL driver jar file. Okay, this is required. Without it, Java cannot connect with database, with any database. If you're working with Oracle, so you need Oracle driver jar file, and if you're working with Postgres, so need its Postgres file. So it depends upon database type, you have to download its jar file. So what I'll do, I'll go to web and search for MySQL jar maven. Okay, so it will open or get me to this maven repository. This is the official website, and this is one of the huge repository for any Java library you can search on. So this is really big library. You can search any library jar file and you can definitely get it. Since we are using Java 17, we downloaded MySQL 8, so our version should be somewhere near to that version. So usually I pick this version 8.0.16 version of jar file. So click on that version. This is a jar file version or MySQL connector jar file. You can see MySQL connector Java version is 8.0.16. And if you scroll a little bit, you can see there's a file space and there's a jar. So jar is 2.2 MB file. Like we saw jar files under JRE, Java base, Java compiler, RMI, Java SQL. Likewise, if you want to connect a third-party library, MySQL is right now a third-party library. Java doesn't know that in future you are going to write MySQL for your application. So we download that from third-party library. We count that as third party. Okay, so you have to click on the jar file, and this jar file get installed or just download it. You don't have to install it. Just click, and this simple jar file will be downloaded in your machine. So how it looks like, I have kept somewhere. There it is. So that's how it looks like. MySQL connector Java, and this is the version. Okay, so keep it handy because we are going to add this jar file in our Eclipse. Like we have Java library or Java jar files because we have to write code in Java. Likewise, if you want to connect Java with MySQL, so make sure that you are passing or giving jar file of MySQL. So how to do that? How to add external jar file to your project? We are going to do that. So right click on a project, go for properties, then build path, and this option libraries tab, go with that and click on this model path, and then on right side we have multiple buttons. So click on add library, oh, sorry, not this, add external jars, then locate that jar file location. So this is under D jars. Okay, so D jars, this is the file, select and click open. So you can see this is added here, and apply close. Once you do that, your project, the core Java project will be updated, and it creates a reference libraries, and under that you will see all the list of third or external jar files, third party libraries or external jar files, and there it is. And if you expand jar files, again there will be lots of packages, package expanded, we have lots of Java classes, and if you see any Java class, you will see lots of variables and methods, same way like we saw earlier. Okay, so what we just did, we did the first step towards connecting Java to MySQL. So this is done, and we have added that in Eclipse. Second, definitely code. So we have to write Java code to connect with MySQL database. So it has certain, or you can say multiple steps. First is, I'm not going to write here because it will be two time. So I will write code in Eclipse, then I'll paste it here. Okay. So let's create a new jar package, sorry, not jar, package, and it will like com. Again, I'm keeping this everything in same. You can say it start with com dot pack dot, then you can type anything, but your root package should not change, and keep it always in sync. So com dot pack is always there. Then I can add package name as per my requirement. So right now I'm going for JDBC, and JDBC is fine. Okay, I can keep this thing and finish. Because you have to always cautious when you're using any term. There should not be any reserve keyword, otherwise you will get error from the Eclipse, the ID. So package is ready. Let's create new Java class, and first thing we will do, we will write select query. What does select query do? Let's go back and see. So if you execute this command, highlight the command. How did I get it? Let me show you again. So right click on table, select rows, and this workbench will generate this query for you. Highlight it if you want to run this query, and there's a button, execute the selected portion. Click and this will be generated. Let's suppose I want to fetch only one ID1. So here I can write where ID equals to 1. So this will fetch only first ID, whose ID is 1, only it will be fetched. So highlight, click on this icon, and you can see I'm just getting only ID1. So likewise you can add multiple SQL queries if you know. Okay, now might be you're wondering, this is new, or maybe did it long time back, but not sure how to do that further. So I'll suggest you can go for this website and practice certain commands. I always recommend to my students that if you are new to any technology, this website is really great. It gives a straightforward approach, and you can always go with some basics of any language. Okay, so let's not put it here. First is fine. Here. So let me highlight which query you should do. Go back. Till where I did that. Having. Okay. So this, if I have to give you like a ratio, how to start or where to start. If you are new or forgot the queries and you really want to do this, you know what guys? Database is not an option for Java developers or any language developers. If you are in development, that means you should write or you should know what is SQL query and how to write it. This is not optional. With language, it comes by default. That means you should know. And if you don't know database, believe me, you cannot perform anything in your project. So you should know how to write SQL queries. After writing Java class and printing hello, the next thing should be how to uh, search or find data from database. So this is not optional. If you want to really good going with the database programming world, database is must, 100% must with any language. Either you are a UI developer or backend developer. Database is must, so this is not optional that okay I can ignore database. No. Okay, but I can suggest you that which query you can practice. Actually from here, from I'm just keeping it in two sections. First section is SQL queries, basic SQL queries, and these are some kind of other types of queries. So from here you can add SQL, select, where, and insert, null values, update, delete, limit, in max, like, wildcards, between. Okay. So I will suggest this is first section. Second section starts with joins. This is the advanced part. Join, union, group by, having unit till here. Not here. This is second section. Next, union, group by, having. Um, you know what? You can ignore this part. It's fine if you um, this much. Okay, so let's fetch this box and put it right here. Okay, so I'm giving it kind of a boxes, and you guys should practice it. And on the right side, these are some other queries. So create, drop, alter, constraint, not null, unique, primary, foreign keys, check, default, create index, check this much, and you should know how to auto increment and MySQL views. I know I have, like, if I have to give 10, so I almost highlighted 9 points, but these are mandatory. As I said, database is not optional. It doesn't matter which language you are using, either even you're working in some AI technologies, NLPs or something, at some point you have to write database queries, or you might need to auto-generate it. So if you don't know anything, so it doesn't matter whether you are writing it or auto-generating it, you should be able to understand it, what's happening. So these are things which you have to understand, and please refer this website if you're new to this. Okay, so going back to the first part where how to select record. So I already gave you idea how to write SQL query. So it goes like select star from this. If you write this code, so it will fetch every single record, highlight and execute. And if you want a specific record, so you can give the ID. So what I'll do, I will write a Java code that will fetch records on this query. By using this query, it will fetch all records. So let's see how to execute this query from Java code. We won't use any command line or workbench. We will run a Java code from main method and execute this query from Java libraries. And we should get data on Java, not here. Okay, so very first step is main method, definitely. Then so step is load MySQL driver. So it goes like class dot for name, and you have to write com dot MySQL dot JDBC dot driver. I wrote this earlier. I'm not sure whether you guys remember or not. And as soon as I write this line, I'm getting a exception. So let's resolve this by writing surround with try catch. So very first line is giving us error. So we just handle it by using try catch block. Next is next step is create a MySQL server connection. Yes, it's true. It's just not a um, just a database. It's actually a server. Server is running, and then only you can see this whole thing's coming up. So we are actually trying to connect a server through Java code. So think about in real times if you have to connect with any website or thing. First of all, you need a web URL. Let's suppose you are logging in your Gmail account or Google account. So first of all, you have to give the URL google.com or gmail.com. Then you have to give your credentials, username and password, and then you have to click enter. Then you can able to log in. Same way you have to give first of all the very first thing it needs it's URL. What's the thing where it is? So I'll say string URL. So it goes like JDBC colon MySQL colon MySQL colon slash localhost colon 3306. This is the URL to connect with MySQL server. 3306 it's default port. Yep. So if you have to connect with this, so you have to give the default port of your MySQL server. So server run or uses by default 3306. The MySQL server uses that. After give a slash and you have to give what you call that your database name. So our database name is kfs-db. This is the name. That's my database name. So I copied that, going back, and there it is. So what I just did, I gave the URL. So this is the fixed thing that you have to give this much info URL. Next, after giving the URL, you need to give the username password. So same thing is here. I'll give user name. So in my case, the server name is username. Sorry, root is the username. Next, I need to give the password. So when you install, you must have given the password. So in my system, the password for MySQL server is MySQL. Okay, this is done. Now we need to create one class. So we'll say connection driver manager dot get connection, and then we need to pass these three things: URL, username, and password. And you can see I've already given them in variables, so Eclipse will auto pick it. And it again throws one error. It clearly says unhandled exception. So what I can do, I can pick one auto suggestion from the Eclipse. So I'll pick, let's use, okay. So yes, it's possible that you can have multiple catch block with one try block. So same thing I did. I have one try block and two catch block. Class not found is for this, and SQL exception for getting connection. Maybe you are passing a wrong credentials. So what will happen then? So you need this thing, and this will give you a connection object. Connection, and then so now we have a live connection of that server which you are supposed to use. And you guys make sure that every single class or interface you are importing, that should be from java.sql package. So this is a package again present in GRA. If I expand Java base, this java.sql. Is that? It's not in base package. That's weird. Just a second. Okay, it's under this java.sql. I just missed it. So there it is, java.sql package. It's a different package actually, not in a Java base. It's inside java.sql jar file, and then it has a package java.sql. Apart from that, we have some other packages. So all these classes are present inside this jar file. Okay, let's close this. Fine. So make sure that you are importing every single class interface from this package java.sql. Okay, once we have connection, what's next? So by using connection, you can say create statements. So create statements and have the reference statement. Statement means the SQL query which you have to use. So if you want to execute SQL queries, that so for that we needed this statement. So I'll say create statement reference to write SQL queries. Otherwise, how you can write your SQL queries? So this is our third step. Then we will write statement the reference dot execute SQL query on execute TE query. So there you need to give the what you call that query, so you can execute your command. So as we are looking forward for select query, so I need to give select query here. So either I can write it right here, or I can keep it, create a new variable string, then SQL something. I'll say select query. Simply write select star means all. Select everything from student table. Since I already gave the database name, so here I don't need to give the username, I mean database dot table name. I can simply go for the table name. So I can say select star from student and semicolon. And I can use this query right here and put a semicolon. If this query get executes, so it gives me a result set. result set. There it is. So what we just did in fourth step, execute the SQL query. In fifth step, if SQL query executed, we should get result set. Again, the result set is not a Java word, it is derived from database. So when we execute any query like this, if I highlight this query, SQL query, and execute it, what I am getting in output, we call that a result set. So right now, how many records are coming in result set? Just one record. If I execute this SQL query, so I will get a result set. In that result set, how many data are there? Three columns are there. Three data are there. So this is again from database. So what Java guys did, because they were trying to create a Java classes for database. So they used all the classes interface name as per the database naming conventions. So once we have a result set, you can verify if this result set has any data or not. So I can say dot, not this, so next. If it is there, so I can print a message. Table has data. Else, I can print a general message that something went wrong, like that way. Okay, so it's done. The, yes, that's it. This much you have to write, and if everything goes fine, we should get either message, either this one or this one. So let's see. I'm going to execute the query, I mean the code. So right click, run as application, and yes, it says table has data. Okay, or instead of this, I can say table found. That will be better. Table found. Okay, great. Now, what if I want to print records? Because if I am saying table found, there must be some data, and by checking database I can see, yes, in this student table I can see 3 records. So I should be able to print or fetch that data from database to Eclipse console. So let's keep this example as it is. I'm going to create new example, tester2. Close this file, tester2 is open, and now instead of saying found, I mean, or even after that, I can print some data. So how to fetch that column data? This is what we are going to do. So if I am going to use if condition, so it will fetch the very first column because we are just using if, not loops inside it. So how to fetch? I'll create one variable later. For now, I can say result set dot get. Show you string and this one. So here when we say get string, you are eligible to pass that column name, that which column you want to fetch. So I'll give id, and we all know id is of int type, so I can say int. So int type, so I should not say string, it should be get int. Because of this it's giving error. Get int, because we know id is of int type, so double quotes id, that's a column name, id is a column name. How do I know? Because we created a table earlier, id and name. We have two columns, id of int type, name is of string or varchar type. So this goes here and I'll say int id equals, and then I can use the same, but this time name is of string type. So I say string and here I'll give name, and name is of string type. So all errors are gone. Now I can print them. So this out. I'll say id colon id colon paste id and plus the double quotes comma name colon plus name. So if this code works out, so it should fetch this column, storing the variables and then printing them. So run as application, and you can see the very first row is coming up, id1 name Ram. That means our code is able to connect with MySQL database server. Yes, we give the all server connections and we're able to connect, fetch it. What if I want to fetch all records, right? Because this is not the way I want to fetch all records. But that query says select all. How do I know it's all? Because of asterisk. Okay. So let's copy this and create one more example. Select tester 3. I'm doing in phases, so you can open first example and you know what just happened here. Then here what happened, and in third example, we will fetch all records. So definitely, if you want to fetch all records, it's not possible with if condition. We have to run a loop because we will get multiple data here, multiple rows are there. So we will use while loop, and I will iterate over it. So while here I'll say rs that result set dot next, and if it goes on till next, that means it verifies whether it has next data or not. So it verifies that. I can copy this line, paste here, and um, copy this. Let's say if dot next not, I will use not here. So in case if it is not there, so something went wrong, otherwise it goes on and do the stuffs. Okay, so this is here, something went wrong, and then it is working as per requirement. So let's see, is it working or not? Run as application, and yes, it is working. But since this has been used above, so let's comment this code for now because it already performs one next. I cannot use that one because it skips that record. When as soon as it says next, it reads that data and skips it. So run as application, and there we go. So we can see all records are coming. Let me just comment this, remove this line for simplicity. So this is the entire code to fetch record from database by writing Java code. Code formatted. Let's run the code again, and fetches all three records. Okay, so this is the select query which fetches record. So image saved. Okay, and this is the output. Next, if I want to insert some record, right? So how to do that? Okay, so same way we'll follow, but in next example I will remove these comments. They're just adding extra lines, so we'll remove that. So I'll copy this example. I'll call this, because more or less code remains same, just query gets changed and the method which is calling it. So insert tester. Let's cut off this line, this, and even I can remove from here to here. Okay, so these lines are required. You need to load driver class, Then you need a database connection server connection and statement. After using statement, you can have to write a after that we'll do that. So need to update this variable name. No more select. It's insert query. And here I need to write something which we saw earlier. So now I can use that image where I was keeping all the insert queries. So how we can insert into table name. We don't need to write this name because we have already used it in our server URL. There it is. So this is now present in our code. So no need of writing server name before table name. So it goes like insert into student and then column name, then values and the values. Again, the column names are quite optional. If you want a specific column, then use it. If you want to insert all records for that particular table, so you don't need to use column names. So how it goes like insert into student, then you can directly start with the values. So we already have three values, so I can say 4 comma, let's say Vamsi. So database dot name is removed. You don't need to give the column names because we are going for all columns. If you want to go for specific columns that I want to insert only ID or only name, then mention that after student you can start a bracket and give that particular column name. But if you're going for all columns, just remove that part and you can have this syntax. So insert query is right, and now I can go for statement. So I can execute this query. So insert sorry select statement dot execute query. You have to run execute update because these are something different. It's not going to execute, it actually updates the database. Right now how many columns are there? Three columns there. You can use this icon refresh. So clicking multiple times I can see only three records. So I'm going to update database. So I have to change the method. Earlier we were using execute query, so it only supports select query. But as soon as you are going to modify your table structure, you have to change a different method, that is execute update. And this method returns int as a status. So I can use a variable name status. Status shows whether this SQL query is executed or not. So for note, if status value is greater than 0, then SQL query is successful, else it failed. Clear? So we have a validation. So what I can do, I can put a if condition. If status greater than 0, so I'll say this out insert query is successful, else typo, something went wrong, like same way something went wrong, and done. That's it. If you write this much and your query should be good, and you're using different method, not execute query but execute update. So right click, run as application, and it says insert query is successful. Great. Let's check the database, and it's not here. We have to reload the table. So I can use this, I can refresh, and yes, it is working fine. I can see fourth record is inserted. Likewise, you can also execute update query as well. So again, I'll copy paste. So because code is same, that's why I'm just doing that. But for you guys, you are doing it first time, please type your code. I'm just saving some time. Again, I have to write the same lines of code again. So just saving that much time. So this time, instead of saying insert, let's say I want to write or like manage write some name. So let's say I want to update Shyam, something I want to add at the end. So I need to update the name of this ID too. So how it goes? Update table name is student, then set. Let me show you the query first of all, so you'll have idea what I'm going up to. So earlier it was update database dot table set, then column name. What's the column name? Name, and then the new value where it should change, where ID equals to 3. So something similar I will also type, since database is already used, so I don't need to give the database, just update this, and then set, then which column? Name column. What's the new value? So I'll say Shyam Kumar, where it should update. So where ID equals to 3, I don't know where it was, 2 or 3, 2. Okay, so I will make it 2. So it simply says that update the student. Even you can even read it. It's like English. The beauty of SQL queries, it is identical, not identical, I would say similar to English language. So it simply says, if you read it, you can get it. Update student, set name this, where ID equals to 2. So it makes sense that what will happen if this goes correct. And here I'll say update query. The variable name is changed. I'll update this name here, and this time instead of saying insert, I'll say update query is successful, otherwise something went wrong. That's it. So you guys can see, once your code is able to connect with database, you can do some minor changes and it will work. The only change you have to notice, when you are writing select query, the method should be execute query. But when you are using insert, update, delete, any query which updates database, so you must be using execute update. That's it. So your query gets changed and accordingly the method gets changed. Now let's check this output, run as application. Okay, it says update query successful. Going to database. It's not here yet, so let's refresh. And oops, nothing happened. Why? Update student set this where ID equals to. It says successful. So why it's not happening? Let's go this way. Yeah, it's there. Okay, sometimes it happens that data set does not show correctly, and if it doesn't happen, so you can always close this and run this again. So I can say it becomes Shyam Kumar. Okay, so this is how you can uh, insert and update record. So last query is left with delete. So let's do that quickly. Second, okay. This is insert example. Fourth, and this is paint, pasted, saved. Fifth. Last is SQL query. So if I have to delete some record, so how to do that? Fairly simple. I just need to know what's the query. So let's go back to auto-generated queries. So how to delete? It says delete from table, and again you have to mention the column name, or you can say primary key. So ID is here and ID equals to 4. So this will delete the record whose ID is 4. So let me write the same query here. Copy paste it. It is delete desktop. There it is. So first thing, change the query. So delete table student. This is its syntax, where ID equals to 4, and variable name should be delete now. Delete query, copy it, replace, and this time it's delete query is successful. So everything remains same. I just change the query. Let me cross verify whether I should have fourth record. Yes, I do have fourth record. Now let's execute this query or example. Run as example. and I'm getting a error. What's that? It says you wrote a wrong syntax because it uses a proper syntax, and if you write something which is not correct, it will throw error. So check what it says. Delete from student. There's no table keyword. I use that intentionally to show you in case if you write a wrong SQL, what will happen. So it says error in your SQL syntax. So what I wrote, delete table student. No, the query is delete from student. So delete from student. So you have to write a proper syntax, only then it will work. So this is changed, delete from student where id equals to 4. Let's run the query. Yes, now it is working. Delete query is successful. If I go database, not yet. Let me refresh. And yes, data is gone. So that's how we trigger SQL queries through Java language. Of course, you can do lots of stuff here. This is the very basic example to connect with database, and nobody nowadays uses JDBC API explicitly for their project. There's a rare chance that you might end up with some legacy project where everything is using core Java. So it's again, the chances are really high that this happen. So I just want to give you a glimpse of how you can connect database from Java language. So we just did it today, and that's it. In next class, we will start with collection framework.